All right. So I was like trying to think through how I could make coffee out here in like a simple way. And I wasn't gonna bring a stove or anything like that, but I heated up the thermos itself, so like it's hot, and then I boiled water all the way, and then put it in here and left no room for air. And I think that keeps this just like crazy hot. So we at least have to temp. And it's funny because like French presses to me they actually like really taste great with water that's not piping hot. So if it's like
Okay.
if you're at home and you're doing it, this is the brewing method that, other than cold brew, this is like the brewing method that I think is the best with like lower temperature water. I think it's because it has to steep, like the water and the grounds are interacting for the longest amount of time.
Oh, sure.
So that specific water, those beans sit there where like even if you're doing a pour over, sure those beans are being extracted, but the specific water is traveling through.
Yeah, right.
So then when it's just this longer steep period, I think you can just deal with much lower temp water. So,
Yeah.
but let's just try this out. I've never done this before, but I thought it would be kind of fun. And you're ready to grind. You're grinding.
Yes. I'm good with that.
All right, let's just be sure that the grind is set coarse enough. All right. So, what's your coffee morning ritual? What do you?
Well, I don't weigh it. I don't hand grind it or any of those
There you
things.
go.
For the
Dump
most
it in
part.
here.
I
You got that good
just
brewer though.
before.
You got the
Yes.
brewer. Okay.
Just before I am ready to
Yeah.
work,
Yeah. Just before you're gonna work.
I get some water ready, grind what I'm going to use.
Okay.
One button push on the grinder is like
Perfect.
how much
the amount of
however much it decides to grind that day, that's how strong or
Okay, so it's a timer.
Yeah, right.
It's got a timer on the grinder.
Right.
Beautiful. Yeah, smell that. See, there's something about smelling ground coffee in a French press outside that I'm like, that moment is like...
Everything's better outside.
It is, dude. It is. So we're gonna just add just enough to cover it.
You'd mentioned that when you're pouring over the water, like even though the beans are already like doing their work, the water's going through it, and every bit of water, like none of it's just sitting there. I don't know why I hadn't even thought of that.
Yeah. All right. Check that out. That's some coffee that's ready to go. Here we go. So I'm just gonna totally agitate it and pour the rest of it in there. A lot of people, what they don't like about French press, I would say like the critique is that you get so many unsoluble solids in your cup. So all the sediment and the sludge and whatever.
Yeah.
But it's also like kind of fun to have coffee in a different brew method, which then you get a completely different experience of the same beans. So the body is totally different. And since there's no paper involved in the filtration, there are the oils, the natural oils that are present in the coffee are in your cup. Because when you use a paper filter,
they just stick to the paper.
They're stuck in the paper. And so you don't really get this buttery body. So like espresso, there's no paper. So when you have a shot of espresso, you can just have this really silky smooth body that you can't get from like a Chemex pour over with a really thick paper.
So that's the reason maybe why like an Americano tastes better than a regular cup of coffee.
Yes. Yes, it has that. It's so much richer. Espresso is like its own thing though. I mean, espresso is like crazy to me how unique and specific that brew method is. Well, what makes espresso is not the beans. So a lot of people are like, oh, are these espresso beans? And it's kind of like, well, all beans are espresso beans.
Okay.
It's like you have a machine. The brew method is the thing that makes espresso.
Yeah.
And specifically, it's that you're brewing it under pressure.
Yeah.
So like it would be like saying like, do you have French press beans? And you're kind of like, well, yeah, but you can.
Do you?
I think this thing's ready to go. Let's have some coffee, man. Let's drink to that. We'll have like a little bit now, and we're just gonna let this stuff super, super extract, and we'll have some, just a really syrupy,
Okay.
dude.
Ooh. Your water did stay hot.
It's hot, man. Yeah, one thing that I've just always appreciated your perspective on how to engage with the digital world. I mean, because so your specialty, what would you say your specialty is? Like,
Oh, among digital advertising, Google Ads is definitely that is the platform I most love to work in.
Yeah.
I mean, really, I like what's most effective. So I'm looking at all the possible ways to change somebody's mind about something, or get someone to consider something.
Mm-hmm.
If there's interest already, if somebody wants something,
Yeah.
and all I've kind of got to do is say like, hey, the thing you want, here's the specific thing that you want and where you want it from, then that Google Ads lends itself so well to that.
Yeah.
But sometimes they don't know what they want, and then you've got to use other channels to get in front of them, or use search in a little bit different way to get in front of them, to get them to realize like I want some, like, I'm interested in some things, and this thing that is also then every once in a while showing up in my feed or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I think I want that too. It's like they walk in a store, like you don't have to sell them on like, hey, like come to the store.
Yeah.
We're here.
We're here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes they're not there, and you've got to say like, and you do have to entice them. Like, it depends on which step along the way you've got to entice them to want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I've done, okay, so like with social media, there's times where I have a ton of energy for it, and I really have something that I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
What I find is that just like gets lost in this like endless, like there's just a stream just always going, and you throw something in there and it just goes shoo, and you're like, that's gone. Like it's not, it doesn't feel like it's super effective to be communicating conceptual ideas to people. So I was getting annoyed with myself, all right? And then I was like, I'm not putting anything up. I'm not going to make any posts. I'm not going to tell people we're open. Everybody knows our store hours. If they want to see it, they can find it, whatever.
Yeah.
So I didn't post, and I didn't post for a whole month. And I am saying noticeably, objectively, observably, loss of sales. And I was like, well, that was just because it's a slow month and people were this and that. That doesn't really like count. Okay, so the first of the month came around, and I started okay, we're open till 7, or we're open this morning, or whatever.
Yes.
Immediately people started showing up, and I was like, oh my gosh, it can't be that.
But it makes sense, right?
And it does.
Like, imagine there's something on a Friday that you would really like people to come to, and there's some reason that you run into a lot of people on Thursday.
Yeah.
They get that little bit of a reminder. Thank you.
Yeah.
And more people will show up. If you don't run into them that Thursday,
they're not showing up.
Yeah. Just in a real, like, actual people in the
Yeah,
actual
actual
world
people,
sense, like running
yeah.
into people who care about something reminds you that there's something there to care about.
Okay, so I didn't believe, I know I had that experience, and I was like, couldn't be. So 6 months later, I did the same thing. 8 months later, I was like, all right, I'm the whole month, I'm not going to say anything to anybody. And then again, observably lower sales.
Yes.
First of the month. And I was like, dang, okay. So that's what I mean in terms of like, as a business, trying to feel out the space and figure out what does work.
This is the sort of like preaching to the choir bit right here. There are some people that all they need is that these are in funnel terms or whatever, or path to purchase terms, that they're so close, right? They want thinkwell beans, just not on their mind, and that simple "we're open" that moves them to the end. But then someone else would be like, yeah, you're open. I've never been in there, and I don't know if I'll ever go in there. Like, doesn't do anything to that person.
Yeah.
So that person needs something different. Everybody needs something different.
And so this is what I think is so interesting, because I do think, and we're talking about our own business, so like whatever. But I'm like, there is something that is special and unique and uniquely individual about what we're doing. But that felt like I couldn't convey it through Google Ad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it can't hold the thing.
Like,
yeah.
And is it that thing, something that people like sit down to their computer or pull out their phone and think like, I need to find this
That's what I'm
thing.
talking
What is it?
about.
What does it even call?
That's what I'm
This
talking
thing that I'm trying to find.
Yeah. Yes.
That's what because the most powerful thing about search advertising is that you get to like people think things and then type them or whatever. They don't even say them out loud. They like sometimes some of the search terms that I see for other types of products are things that people might not even have admitted to themselves yet, but their fingers were comfortable saying it. I get to use that ability to read people's mind a bit to say like, hey, when you think this thing, whether or not you even like really admitted it to yourself or whatever it might be, like you're having a thought that if you're having that thought, my product might be exactly what you need.
I just have never thought about it. We're like the whole thing that you're just saying about like a person is thinking something and they're trying to like find it on the internet. And if they're trying to find these things, they're probably like pretty into that stuff too. And like maybe they'd be interested in just that whole web of stuff is like, I just find it so fascinating.
Behavioral economics is one of those areas where, I mean, give me a book on behavioral economics and I'm pretty happy there.
Yeah.
It's just such an interesting field of study to think about why people do some of the things they do.
Yeah.
Just little things that, little ways that people want to change behavior or don't want to change behavior and do without wanting to or whatever. And the little things that you can do sometimes to say like, hey, if you're, like, here's something that here's a behavior, and I hope in each of these cases that I'm trying to convince them in good ways, to change their behavior in ways that they would appreciate. But like, you were gonna go to the store and buy a bag of coffee, like here, think about this. Here's why. Here's how it aligns with some of those other things that you've been thinking and whatever else. And that they'll be like, oh man, like I don't know how I ended up here, but I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Because there's something that I get from talking to you that makes this bag of beans more than it is.
Yeah.
And I was thinking that was sort of a feeling, and that was it. Like just a difference in the feeling that I get that is more than just a bag of beans. But I really do get a little bit of coffee coaching.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah. We get to have an actual interaction. My desire is to have this business be this thing where people know you can come and join into this work just simply by buying your coffee from us. This is what we are doing. We are doing this active everyday work of like creating and taking care of the people right in our sphere. And then where it goes all down the stream, we're finding the people, whether they're brokers or whether they're millers or farmers, who share the same set of values, so that when somebody comes and buys a bag from us, they are like powering up this engine, which is not an exaggeration, is actually going around the globe, going to people's houses who share the same set of values, who feel the same way. So there's like this whole thing that I'm like, I want to be communicating this and saying this and like getting people on board, because the more people who are buying our coffee puts more money into this stream of, you know what I mean? Where I feel like, well, how can a Google ad communicate that? You know what I mean? Like, there's like, I have to have a 30-minute conversation with every customer, but in some ways,
it's like craft coffee near me isn't the key word. It's like economic engines for good.
Yeah.
Oh,
are you having an existential dissatisfaction? Like,
I think we have a tendency to think about, maybe that there's this cycle from grower to, to distributor to roaster and whatever, but then think like, and then it goes to the customer. It's no longer, it leaves the cycle, goes to the customer. And the diagram that you're kind of mentally drawing here
Yeah.
isn't that it leaves the circle at all. The customer is an important part of this circle.
Huge. I mean, they are the essential component.
Yeah, right.
Because they're the entrance.
You don't buy a single bit of anything
if they don't buy a bag. It's like really, truly is. And I'm wanting to have them know when you're making a purchase, it's like you're putting water into the stream to make the thing flow around to all these different people.
You say you want that in every coffee on your table, but you kind of want it in everything. You want it in everything from what you wear to just every aspect of your life. To some extent, if you can have that or have the opposite of that, like it would be nice to just have that level of clarity on everything that you're buying. Like there should be a sign above everything that just tells you what the trade-off is. Like, hey, this is $10 cheaper, but here's what it doesn't have.
Yeah, exactly.
Or whatever.
Like, actual transparency on the product.
Yeah, there's something nice about not knowing.
Yeah, right.
But once you know, then there's something nice about knowing that you did better.
Yeah. If I were to be making any kind of like outward communication or like to share something with just like the crew of people who I'd like to know that this exists, I'm not even trying to talk to specialty coffee people or people who are really into coffee because they already know this exists and they're already buying their coffee. I want to talk to the people who are going to the gas station. I want to talk to the people who are going to the grocery store shelf, the people who are buying Folgers or whatever. Those are the people that I want to be like, there is another way. There's another stream that you can pour your money into that's going to actually make impact in the world positively. And like join it. You don't just have to buy our coffee. There's plenty of roasters who are doing this, but like you can have a thing in your daily life that you are giving to and receiving from and having like true participation with that embodies harmony, that embodies the belief of like love and care, and like we don't have to be harming anybody or anything, and we can all be like lifting each other up. It's so beautiful, and it's a picture I want to paint. But like, it's difficult because the ways that I try to reach out, it's so much better to just talk to a person. You know what I mean? Like,
it's easy too. Like you don't have to like, I'm going to put a lot of planning and implementation, like thought into how I'm going to have this conversation. You just do
just have it.
And like
exactly.
everything else, it like takes so much work to just plan for how you're going to do it. And then so much work to do it. You know, you make a video of all of the different ways that like, this is important. And people are like, I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, dude. It's like, they can just hit the next button. Next.
You don't have a way to get that real-time feedback, like, oh, this isn't connecting with him, or
dude.
whatever, and then to adjust. But in a conversation, like even right now, if I were like, oh wow, you just said something that caused me to change how I feel a little bit, you could get that real-time feedback and be like, oh wait, what was it that seemed to just change in the way that you're feeling right now?
Yeah. Well, I was talking to this guy. He's a guy who I've known, and he does all this business stuff or whatever. So we're chatting on the phone, and I was saying, well, this is the stuff that I care about, and so I got to keep, like, that's the path that I'm trying to go down. He's like, yeah, I kind of get that from you, that you're like, you're into that stuff, and like for him, he just is wanting to make money.
Yeah, right.
And he's kind of like, this stuff is fine, but that's not, you're going to make any money doing that stuff,
Right.
Okay.
Which was something that we were unsure of for a while, but I think we found that you can.
You can.
It's not the get rich quick scheme that
it isn't.
You probably could have chosen,
but I'm not trying to do this for money. It's like I like the leverage of using the money to leverage the change that we want to see. I like the whole engine part of it and powering up a thing that ends up making a huge positive change. That to me is like, that's what I am excited about, or what I'm after. I am looking at like the body of people, the body of the collaboration, people working together, and like the entirety of it, and that we are capable of working together and taking care of each other. And when we're doing that, I'm not trying to hold up the beans so much as I'm trying to hold up, like, look at this beautiful thing that we can
Yeah.
do as people
Yeah.
across all things that are supposed to be our divide. We are supposed to be divided over all of these things, and yet here we are. This cup is right here, and it has been, we've bridged all that stuff, and it's
Yeah.
embodying a really different. And that's where I'd say I depart a bit from specialty in that regard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. That makes sense. It, this is what I like about visiting you on Thursdays is
Yeah.
that I get it. Like
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
there's so many little things I don't get. And then oh wow.
Well, this cup of coffee was great, so I really appreciate sharing it with you and being able to just drink it and continue the conversation we've been having for years.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was a
yeah.
great cup of coffee, and it was
Yeah.
very nice to sit and talk with you.
Yeah. Thanks, Josh.
Thanks,
We'll
Erik.
see you, buddy.